Hello, how's everybody? How are you all? I'm hoping you can all see me and hear me. Let's have a see. Who do we have? Oh, we have a good few of you on here today. Right, we have, hi Jean, hi Lorraine, and Valerie, and Andrea, and Jill. All names I recognise. Lovely to have you here. And we have Deborah from Spring in Texas. Brilliant. Lovely to see you, Deborah. And we have Tony from Long Island in New York. Lovely, welcome. It's great to have you here. Hi, Suzanne. You've been watching for several years now. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I think, I'm trying to think. I've been with Lisa's right from the very beginning. So I believe that's 4 years, 4.5 years or so. Was it 3? I'm getting very confused, but yeah, I've probably been doing lives for the last 3 or so. It's great to have you. Oh, hi Bonnie, you can hear and see, that's brilliant. And Natalia's with us as well. Hi Natalia. And Kathy. Oh, did I see Beverly there? Yes, I did. Hi Beverly, have you got your bits and pieces out to craft along today? It'd be interesting to see what you do alongside. Hi Mum, how's you? We've got Evelyn as well, and we got Jean from Australia. Hi Jean, lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me. Right, I shall get going. I've got a few bits and pieces today, and hopefully I can get it all done in the hour for you. Beverly's craft along, but with a different set. That's absolutely fine. What I thought I would do, because there's been a few requests, and I think it might have been during my live on Tuesday, someone asked if I could, or if there were any videos on the waves and bubbles, and I knew that I hadn't done anything. And it's always nice to sort of get an inventory on our YouTube channel of everything that Lisa's brought out. Now, that's some job because Lisa, as you know, brings out lots and lots of things really, really quickly. So, but we're working through, we're getting there. So it's really nice to be able to demonstrate this set for you today, waves and bubbles. I'm going to be using it in 3 different ways. And actually none of the ways are with blue, and I'm not actually treating it as a wave and bubble set. I'm treating it as a background folder. And a background design, which you can put your spin on in any way. Now, everything that I will do today, obviously you can substitute the colours for the blues and greens. That would make these, you know, the waves and the bubbles as they are originally designed for. But I've tried to put a bit of a different spin on this, and I've given you hopefully a bit of an idea if you only have the embossing folder as well. Obviously, if you just have the stencils, then you can create a lot of what I'm going to create. But I've got an idea for you if you do just have the waves and bubbles. Now, I know when this was launched, this was part of a set. So it could be that you bought the larger set and then for other designs, and you wasn't quite sure what to do with this one, because I mean, I do get it. You look at it and it looks great to use when you're watching someone else demo it, and then as soon as you get it home, your mind can sort of go blank and you're never quite sure what to do with it. So hopefully I can help you through that today. And actually playing with it today, I've actually had really great fun with it. I've created lots of different things, actually, say 3 different looks. And actually what I'm doing with you with these lives, I'm actually building up a really nice little stash of Christmas cards for myself, which is really handy. So I'm going to put up the first slide. Nope, not that one. I've given the game away. I'm just going to whiz through. They've gone on in a different order. There we are. So this is the first one that I'm going to use. I've also listed a couple of the other things that I'll be using alongside on each of the different cards, but basically I am focusing on the waves and bubbles here. So the first look, I'm just going to bring in this stuff. Okay. The first look is this one here. Now this, I think, might be a really nice idea for a guy's card. Now I'm really, hoping for the light here to show this off. Now what I've used, you'll see on the side, I've used the new limited edition metallic ink pads. And actually what you can see here in the background is a different embossing folder. I've just sort of thought outside the box a little bit, just to perhaps give you some other ideas. And what I've used is the deck plate embossing folder. Now this one is still in stock, and you'll see by the number there, number 34. This is the 34th. No, what have I done? Oh, 14. Sorry, what was I looking at before? Oh, this layered sentiments. Yes. So this is the 14th embossing folder that Lisa brought out. So way back in the day. It's a really, really lovely one for the guys, and it's absolutely right to use, or prime to use, with the metallic pigment ink pads that we have now. So what I've done, I've just cut myself a piece of black cardstock, which fits in the embossing folder. Now these embossing folders are 6 by 6, and I cut my my piece of paper down to about 5 3/4 inches, if not 5.5 inches, and that means it fits into the embossing folder perfectly. So what I've done, I've just embossed with the deck plate, and I've used just stencil number 1 from the Waves and Bubbles set, and just use the ink and just sort of smush that through that first layer of the stencil set, just to create a little bit of interest. Now you could obviously do this without using that stencil, and you can smush your ink all around so it covers the entire piece of black cardstock entirely. But this is just a really sort of nice, a different idea, which you can then add your sentiment onto. Now I've stamped this sentiment onto black textured cardstock using the solid gold, and it's stamped brilliantly. Now I am having to show you this to the light, but honestly, when I'm looking at this sort of face on myself, I can actually see this more than the camera is picking up for you. But this just gives a different idea, doesn't it? So my first demo for you, I'm not going to use the deck plate, as I say, I've shown you that there, and you can use any embossing folder in the background, and say just that first layer of the stencil just gives a little bit of interest if you wanted to sort of create a guy's card really quite simply. So before I continue, actually, what I will tell you, this sentiment that I've stamped here, it's the large sentiment. Say these embossing folders, these background embossing folders, I think are brilliant just to stick a really large sentiment on. That means you're just good to go. It's a really quick and simple card, really effective. You've got no theme, so it's ideal to give to guys. But these sentiments I've given here, I'm not sure they're in stock anymore, actually. They could well have been discontinued. Ignore the two-tone colour. It's just faded, so it shows you how long I've had this here. But it was the double glazed sentiments, and I'm sure many of you have that already in your stock. But say that's aside, you can use any large sentiment die cut or stamp that you can put onto the front there. So what I'm going to do with this one in particular, I'll still be using the black cardstock, but instead of using the deck plate, I've actually gone ahead and I've embossed the Waves and Bubbles straight onto the black cardstock there, as you can see. Now, excuse me, the sun's just come out, so it may well be making things look very difficult for you. So what I'm just going to do is just remove that slide for now. And again, just like the deck plate one here, I'm only going to use stencil number 1 from the set. Use my ultimate, and I'm just going to line it up with the embossing that I've already done. Now you could do this the other way around. You could add your ink and then emboss afterwards, but I'm going to do it this way. It just makes things a little bit quicker for you. So I'm just going to use my metallic inks and the brushes that I've dedicated to those and just not think too much about it, to be honest. I'm just going to come in with a lot of ink on my brush and just basically go across the whole of the aperture here over the whole design. Because I've already embossed it, you may have different levels of ink that will highlight some of the embossing and debossing that's on the folder. Now, apologies to say the light is not on my side at the moment. But what I'm doing, you can see I've got the different ink pads here. I've got a different brush for different colours, and I'm literally not thinking about it and just adding my ink all over until the whole page is covered. And I am going to be merging the inks. I'm not too worried about where I'm going on the page. And I come in with some silver. This is really tricky for you to see. There we are. You can actually see the colour going on there. Had I known the sun was going to come out, I would have lowered the blinds a little bit. But this is a really great technique because, honestly, each time you do this, it will turn out differently, because the idea it really is to not think. Just pick up the ink and just put it on your page and away you go. I mean, that literally is as simple as. So when I take that away, and I can show you that now. There's an area there actually that hasn't been blended. I don't need the stencil for this, so I can just come in the centre there and just blend that out. Now you will still have some details around the outside that are embossed but won't have been touched by the ink, but I think that is a really nice touch. Can you see that there? Hopefully you can. What's this? Who we got? Daisy Crazy Sarah. That's a lovely name. Okay, so you can see there it is such an easy technique, and just say I've embossed that. You don't need the stencils really to do that. Again, if you don't have the stencils and you wanted to add your ink all the way across, you can even use the direct paper technique by picking up the ink pad and actually smushing that onto the cardstock directly. Look, you can see how juicy those ink pads are. I'm getting ink everywhere, so I'm just going to clean my fingers. Honestly, I've got myself in a right old mess today with ink, but it's all good. It's all good. That's the fun of it, actually. It's what I like about inking. So, yeah, we have this really straightforward. Again, I've stamped a sentiment. This time I've stamped with the silver ink onto a black textured cardstock, and you can see how well that is stamped. And all you need to do is just pop that onto there, and look how straightforward is that. I mean, that would be lovely. Have a play with the different colours. Have a play with the interference inks. Doesn't have to be the metallics, obviously. Play with the interference, you know, have yeah, just have a great time. You'll be able to sort of create those really, really quickly. Now, what I will do, actually, while I'm here, if I can, I'm going to get myself a piece of black cardstock and just show you how well these inks stamp as well. Hazel's got plenty to say about that today. Right. Now, I tell you what I did do. This cardstock that I've stamped onto here is actually, I've got it here, is actually the backing to the stencil brushes. Oh, excuse me while I rustle about. Just rustling in my paper bin next to me there. But what I do want to say, when you get these stencil brushes, they come in this lovely packaging, actually, really sturdy. And actually, if you do struggle as to know how to store your stencil brushes, what it might be doing is just keeping the insert and just keeping in there, because they do stack up really nicely, even if you don't keep the box. But these black inserts are in the back of the packaging here, right? Now, you may have known this. I mean, we're all crafters together, right? you know, we all have the same idea. But you can see how that black piece fits in the back there. But if you actually take that out, once you've taken your brushes out and you are throwing away the rest of the packaging, if you look at that, that's actually a really nice piece of cardstock. It's a really lovely weight, and there's a little bit of texture on there, and it stamps and embosses and die cuts perfectly. So don't throw that away, because that gives you a really nice piece of black cardstock. I keep meaning to tell you that over the weeks, but I keep forgetting. So that's just a nice little tip there for you. So I'm just going to take one of these stamps actually from the this sentiment set. I mean, this is one of my really favourite sets actually, because you get dies to die cut your sentiment, and then you can you have the die to die cut the layer as well. So I'm just going to stamp this one. So I've used Wishing You a Happy Birthday, which is just a really easy sentiment to use. So I'm just going to take off this stamp here. And I'm going to do this freehand, and actually I'm going to do this with an acrylic block. Obviously, if you have your stamping platforms, then that would be a really good way to do it. I'm not going to stamp on my Ultimate because that does bow a little bit in the middle. So I'll just show you how well these stamp. So when you ink up a stamp, you take your ink pad and you bring it to your acrylic block upside down like this, and it's really light tapping, and you just carry on until you can see a really nice even coat over your stamp. So I'm not putting any pressure on this at all, because these are so juicy. If I were to really push this into that stamp, I'd lose all of that detail. So really light tapping there, get a good coverage, and then I'm just going to stamp that straight down. You see, we're so used to blending and using stencil brushes and blending brushes without inks straight from the ink pad that you forget that you can actually stamp with them. And just look at that. And I'm so impressed with these. I said this on Tuesday, and then I got straight on a message Lisa afterwards, because I am super impressed with these metallic inks. I mean, that in itself is perfect, and to have that level of pigment stamp straight onto a black cardstock without having to restamp, yeah, is just amazing. And then to just clean these stamps off, again, it's just so easy. I mean, other inks that I've used, you'd be there forever. You'd need special solvent cleaners to clean the ink off, but there, clean stamp just by spritzing some water on and wiping off with a microfiber cloth. So that one is stamped in the gold, and obviously you can see how well the copper stands out on the black as well. So that's another thing to bear in mind with your metallic inks there. I'm sure many of you have got them now, because I'm pretty sure Danny's up to date with all the orders, so we'd love to know what you think of them. I mean, it's to say, as a design team, we're absolutely amazed by them. So there we are. We have our first design for you. Daisy, there you go, Daisy Crazy Sarah, you are keeping your black cardstock from packages too. Yeah, and I had a feeling you might. Say it's something as a crafter we all notice, don't we? We don't really waste very much, and try and see the opportunity in everything. So I'm just going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to bring up the next slide for you, this one here. So now I just want to show you how to use the same set, the waves and bubbles, and make a Christmas inspired card. Now, how different does that look? So entirely different. I mean, it's the same premise. I'm using the set as a background design, and I've put a large sentiment on the front. Now, in hindsight, I should have perhaps backed the sentiment in black, but you'll get the drift of what we're doing with this. So just using red inks, actually, 2 red inks I've used. One of them is an interference ink, just to add a little bit of extra texture on there. But I think it was one of the design team. I can't remember who. I want to say Donna, but it could have been someone else who done this initially. And it just reminded me of the red and white peppermint sweets that you get at Christmas. So, I mean, how clever is that? It's a waves and bubbles set, which, say, on paper, you'd think that was sort of sea inspired, yet we can just create something very different. Now, what I've done for you here, I've listed everything that I've used and the inks, but here you'll see that I've actually tried to give you a little crib sheet on how to use the ink and what ink to use on the different layers in case you wanted to create this, because it does take a little bit of thinking about if you're not used to using this set. So I'm just going to give this a quick wipe because we still have the metallic inks on there. Don't want to go too mad. Okay. And I have I'm actually using textured cardstock. You can use Zig Smooth White or Lisa's cardstock. That would work equally as well, of course. So you'll see there the layer. I've tried to give you the different layers there as I went along, because I actually used the layers in a slightly different order when I was getting prepared to this, just so as I didn't get the colour combinations wrong. So I'm using one of the new inks again, the limited edition Jingleberry, but any of the other red inks would work perfectly well. We have red grapefruit, which is, I think, from set 3 would work. We have rhubarb jam, which would give a slightly different version of a red, and there's also strawberry sundae that would work. I'm also using the limited edition interference ink Crimson Cheer, but again, there are other interference inks that you would be able to pair with this to make this work as well. So I have my, now I will bring in a little bit of rhubarb jam. This is just going to add a little bit of depth and a little bit of shadowing along the way if I feel that I need it. So let's get ourselves sorted. Right, so the first layer, we're using red, but we want to go really, really pale with this, mainly because we've got an awful lot of layering to do on top, but we do want to create some boundaries for the rest of the design. Now, because this design really does rely on the use of white to create the contrast against the red, you really do sort of want to be quite careful with the layers, just only for this particular type of design. Or if you were to substitute the red for a green or a blue maybe, then I would sort of follow the same logic, I suppose. Now, unlike the first card that I done where I covered the whole of this area, I am only going around the outside. Now, it could be actually at the end that I may come back to this and add more colour where I think I need it, but because I do want a lot of white and that to be quite stark against the red, I'm being quite careful. So you'll see there that I'm using Jingleberry and I'm just going pale, so a light coating of ink just around the edges, as you can see, like that. I'm not too worried about it's not blended properly, but we have sort of that outline, that nice aperture going on there. So that's Jingleberry. So the second layer, again, I'm using Jingleberry also. We only have like 3 little apertures there. And again, I do just want to be very gentle and just mindful that I want to keep a lot of white onto this. So I'm just coming in pale on those areas as well. That's really quite straightforward. So you can see where we go in. Now, stencil number 3, this is where we get a lot more detail happening. And this is where we start putting down lots of ink. Basically, my technical term, use jingleberry or the red and use lots of ink. So in we go. I'm using the larger stubby brush because I can get lots of ink coverage onto the larger areas. Now I will in time invest in blending brushes, which are these black ones. I will invest in these black ones for these new limited edition inks as well, because I like to keep one set of brushes per colour if I possibly can. But at the moment I just have the stubby brush and I can just pick up lots of ink. I mean, these ink pads are so juicy. And because I'm working onto textured cardstock, I'm having to just put a little bit more ink down because obviously we've got a little bit more texture on that cardstock to cover, but that's fine. I want a nice solid colour, so it doesn't really matter how careful I am with putting the ink down, and I'm just going as quick as I can for you. Okay, so it's nice that we can show this in real time, and then if you guys or anyone else that comes along and watches this actually in the future, you can then craft along. I mean, that's the whole idea of building up a really useful library onto YouTube. It gives you that support at the time when you need it, and not always at the time when we do the lives. Okay, so I'm just going to swap brushes now for no other reason than there's some really small details here, and a smaller brush obviously gets into those areas a lot easier. So I'm just going to go around and do all of those. Now there's an awful lot of red ink going on. That's fine. And you'll notice I'm perhaps not being quite as gentle as I would normally be when I'm doing these blending, but I think for this particular background design, you really don't need to worry. So we have that design there, and there now you can see the benefit of that first stencil being really light and pale, because if you'd have gone too dark with that very first stencil, you'd be struggling to add in this detail now. So stencil number 4, and you see here that we swapped to Crimson Cheer. So this is the interference ink, and the interference inks, you can use the stencil brushes, which is these ones I'm using, or you can use your blending sponge. Now I get on really well with the blending sponges. It's going to be perfect for this because we can put down a lot of ink really quickly. And again, we want a lot of ink to go down. So we can just blend that across. And obviously, the more ink that you use with the interference inks, the more mica you have, and that will really show and come to the fore as it dries, which is perfect for a Christmas card, isn't it? You do want a good bit of sparkle. I don't know if Helen's watching today. Helen's my sister. She is the queen of sparkle in the family. And it isn't just confined to Christmas. But why not? It's a bit of sparkle cheers everyone up. Cheers everyone up, doesn't it? Okay, so we have that there. And you can see actually that's a really gorgeous Christmas colour. And as I take that away, it matches so well with the jingleberry. They are so well colour matched, but obviously when you're looking at this sort of from the angle that I can see the mica drying. Now I'm just going to, let me put this over here to show you what I'm doing. I'm just going to clean, oh no, you can't see that there, can you? I forget, let's move that away. I'm just going to clean this now, because there's an awful lot of ink on here, and if I lay that on top of the other stencil, then there's going to be a lot of transference. So I've just spritzed it with the water on top of a microfiber cloth, and I've found a really good way to do this is then just put a second microfiber on top and just smooth it down. And what that does, it takes away a lot of the ink, because there's lots of detail on here. I don't want to scrub too much and then risk sort of catching a lot of these things. So that is actually a really nice way to clean your stencils really quickly. Okay, so we're on to stencil number 5, and again, as we can see there, Crimson Cheer. You can actually use another colour if you want. If you're doing this for Christmas and you don't want to do just the red theme, then you could actually introduce another colour here. You could perhaps bring in a green or a blue, but I'm just going with the red theme. I've dived headfirst into the red. There we are. Now there's an awful lot of ink there, and I think what I might do again, just so as I don't get this everywhere, I'm going to clean this, because what I do want to do, if I can get to it, is a second demo. We're using different colours. But you can see actually these microfiber cloths actually make life so much easier for cleaning, don't they? Not only your stencils, but there we go. That just picks that all up really quickly. And I'll deal with those ones in a second. So you can see now that we really do have a nice red and white theme going on, and it's not merging too much. There's not too much red that sort of makes the whole thing merge and you can't see what's going on. So that was sort of worth me putting down this crib sheet for you and then working that out for you. Because I think if you go into some of the layers with too much red or not enough, then I don't think that the effect will actually be there. So now we have a Jingleberry again. You could use actually the Crimson Cheer, it's entirely up to you. And I'm just going to put a light layer of the Jingleberry through stencil number 6. Now I'm not going to do the whole lot, and as it says there, I'm going to go very pale and just focusing around the edges. Now what that means is I'm going back to the way that I would normally stencil and create elements of shading. So you see this area here, I'm only really going to put some ink just on the bottom edge of here, just to create a little bit of sort of dimension in the aperture. And I'm going to do that and sort of bear that in mind with each of the open areas that there are. This area here where you have lots of stripes, I'm just really going to concentrate on the edges and really blend that out. So I've done this side and now I'll come into this side. And this is just going to add those light and dark shades, which I could have used actually rhubarb jam. I didn't know whether I was going to use that or not. I don't think it necessarily needs it on this time round. So I'm not going to go too heavy on this. As I say, we do want to keep as much white on here as possible. Now a lot of these white areas are actually going to be pale red, but it will give you that illusion of the white when we take that away. And you can see there how I've done this shading here and just here. It just gives that nice illusion of depth as you go along. So the whole idea of this really is to be either a mix of Christmas baubles in white and red theme, or the peppermint mints that you have, but it doesn't look like the waves and bubbles at all. And it's sort of quite an abstract background, isn't it? Which is what I really like about this. You don't have to think about it too much. Now, also what I will show you just before I move it, if you wanted to, you could have not stenciled this large layer at the beginning. You could wait until now to do that and then add the extra shading where you want to at this stage. Putting that stencil number 1 down now, you can see why I didn't want to go really, really heavy with that stencil, because I would never have got all of this other definition otherwise. So if you wanted to, you could wait until now to use this stencil and just go around and just highlight those edges around the outside. So hopefully that sort of makes sense to you, and you start getting some understanding with how Lisa works with her layers on the stencils also. So that's finished. I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to see if I can show you. Oh, yeah, there you go. Can you see some of that mica coming through? And that just adds that really special Christmas moment to it, doesn't it? Now, bear in mind, that is flat. I've just stenciled that and it's not been embossed. So what I will do, I'll show you how this lines up, and I will emboss this for you as well, because that really does make these designs pop. So our image can only go into our stencil the one way, which is useful. And we can line that up. What I really like on this, actually, the more that you look at these, when you're lining this up, you're sort of forced to look at the details. Lots of little details, the swirly details around the outside that don't have any shading and whatever around. I think it's a really nice detail. It's actually a really lovely folder. So bear with me a second. I'm just going to emboss that. Okay, there we go. So again, hopefully I can show you the detail of the embossing now that I've done that. The sun's gone in actually, so it's a better light. So if you can see here, there's some extra embossing there, extra embossing detail. And actually, do you know what? As this is drying, as the ink is drying, and having embossed that now, that mica is a lot more visible to you, isn't it? So you can see that really popping out. Isn't that pretty? Now I think that this would work actually with the with greens or blues as well. It really looks nice in red, and I'm not usually a red person, to be honest, but I really like the look of that. Oh, I've frozen. Now, can you still? What colour is the second level? Can you still hear me? My screen seems to have frozen. I don't know if you can still hear me or not. Restarted. Oh, are we back? Yes, we are. We're back. Okay, yes. It looks like we're all back to... Oh, good. You can still hear me. Perfect. Okay, so Beverly, you've asked the question, what colour is the second level? Can you see the slide on the side of the screen, Beverly? The second level, which I'm assuming is the second stencil layer, that would be the Jingleberry. I've put that on the side of the slide there, so hopefully that's a little bit, that's quite useful to you. I've used Jingleberry, but as I say, you can replace that either with a red grapefruit or strawberry sundae. And I even think you could use raspberry jam actually and replace that. If you just follow the where the layers that I've used it pale and the layers where I've used a lot of ink, I think that a rhubarb jam or a loganberry or any of the other reddy pinky colours, actually pink and mint would look really nice as well. That would look stunning. So hopefully that's useful to you there. So yeah, just to finish that off then, you really don't need to do very much more. You can just mount that onto some black or red. I'll just pop that over the top there with a sentiment, and away you go. And it's a really quick and simple card again. So what I might do, I think, hopefully we're all okay. Oh, not to worry, Sarah, you have to dash. But what I might try and do for you now is a complete and utter different look again. Now, what I do need to do, just really quickly, is to wipe these down. What I want to do, and I'll just talk you through this. So I'm going to take away that slide now. And I'm going to put this one up. I'm going to use an autumn style card. And I'm using another embossing folder. And I'm going to stencil onto a Kraft card this time with some interference inks. So I'm just going to clean these up as quickly as I can. Now you can see here I'm having to clean the back of the stencils as well because there's so much ink that I've used that they transfer to the back. So it's not an issue, but do just bear that in mind if you are stacking the stencils as you use them. So now what I've done, I'll talk you through this. This next technique I'm going to do, basically I'm using the stencils in the same way, but I've cut myself a piece of Kraft card, as you can see there. And I've embossed it with, I've chosen the mottled leaves because that is quite an autumnal, nice foliage background. I've embossed that, as you can see, but then I've run it back through the die cutting machine just between the two cutting plates with no die, and I've squashed the embossing. So it's not 3D embossed anymore, but because of the how brilliant Lisa's stencils are, that design is still there. It's almost watermarked, as it were. You can see that there. So we are working onto a flat cardstock, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to stencil over the top of that. So any of these larger areas, I'm hoping is going to pick up just a little bit of that foliage detail, and it just adds a little bit of interest to the background, and it perhaps just gives you a little bit more use out of your background embossing folders that you've used as well. So let's see how this goes. You can see the colours that I'm using there. I'm using all interference this time actually. So I have milk chocolate roses, summer garden, ripe mango and teal twist. Now these three are from the second release of interference inks, and this one here, the teal twist, is from the first release. And I have my sponges already designated. Let's take the label off that one. So although I have stenciled this, I'm just going to treat this as a normal piece of card. So stencil number one, line that up, and say I've cut these down to size. Normally I would stencil on a much larger piece and then cut it down to size afterwards, but so when I'm with you I do it slightly differently. So now I'm going to just keep in mind again the different layers. So this first layer I'm going to put down is going to be quite pale, and I'm only going to work around the outside because it just gives that nice halo of colour without compromising the cardstock and the amount of detail that can be seen in the later layers. So I'm just working around the outside, and again, if I find that when I get to the end that I need a little bit more colour from this layer, I can always come back and use this stencil again. You know, that's the beauty of actually using the ultimate, and it's we sort of take using the ultimate for granted these days, don't we? Especially, you know, with Lisa's products, and I'm pretty sure many of you have this now, and it sort of goes without saying that if you're going to stencil, you always pull out the ultimate. So I'm just going to take that away, and you can see, as faint as it is, I've just got that halo of colour, and that's the milk chocolate roses that I've used there. So stencil number two, again, I'm just going to follow the same train of thought as before. That's going to be really pale and use the milk chocolate roses again, really pale, because I know that that's a layer that I can build onto. Stencil number three, so this is where we can start bringing in the contrast colour. Now I've put the teal twist here just in case I need a fourth colour as a contrast, but what I really want to concentrate on is using these autumnal colours, the milk chocolate roses, which is a real it's a real light brown colour. It's almond frosting but darker, I suppose. Then we've got an orange and a green, so you know, about as, not that I'm wishing autumnal colours away, but I think it's just a really nice colour palette to use. So I'm coming in with the Summer Garden. Now bear in mind I am working on to Kraft cardstock, so everything is going to appear you know, slightly more muted than it would if I were working onto white cardstock, in which case you would see absolutely the brilliance of the greens and the oranges. So everything is going to be toned down just that little bit more because I'm working onto Kraft, but I think that just gives a nice different look. And I say, I'm pretty sure that there's been reels and other demos done, and they're pretty much all on white cardstock or perhaps even black cardstock. So just to show you, the interference works on Kraft card, and that by using Kraft card also on something like this, nice background folder, that you can get a very different look. So I'm going to take that away. You can see what I mean, how everything just sort of toned down. It's a really nice effect. I like it. And I think that's why I don't mind too much making cards for the guys, because I really like these muted tones, which I adapted to the backgrounds that I use these with. I think makes it ideal for cards for the guys. So hopefully this will give you some ideas for that as well. So this time this layer I'm using ripe mango, and because I'm using the sponges and I'm using the interference inks, I'm not worried too much by shade and whatever. I'm just putting as much ink down through the stencil as I can, because I know as this dries we're going to get the benefit of the mica, so we're going to have that nice shine as well. So I'm not really being very fussy with how I'm blending. I'm just making sure that enough ink is going through that stencil. There we are. You can see that coming together. I mean, this could actually even be like a vintage Christmas as well, couldn't it? If you'd done this onto mica, onto Kraft card, even Kraft card onto with red. The technique that I've just done, actually using all the red inks onto Kraft card, I think that might work really nicely as well. So I think I do need just an extra bit of colour, so I'm going to come in with a teal. Now this is a really small amount, so it's not going to really jar the rest of the colour scheme too much, but I think we might need something just to lift what we have there. So I'm just going to use that little bit of teal just through that. And you can see actually that doesn't really show up very much from you to you, does it? I can see that. Let's make that a bit darker. Okay. Oh, there, you can see that a little bit better now, can't you? And then we have the last stencil, stencil number 6. And I think what I might do with this one, I'm going to use the milk chocolate roses and come in really heavy with that. And that, I think this colour actually is just going to tie in the rest of those autumn colours. Now, I didn't make a crib sheet for this one because I think if you choose the right set of 3 colours that all work together anyway, like, you know, these brown, green and orange, basically, it doesn't matter in what order you use them particularly, to be honest with you. So I think the trick to this particular project is just choosing the right colours, because you have like 3 of this type of layer which are all pretty similar. So I can take that away. There you go. You can actually see how that's all come together, and I can still see the leaf detail in the background there. Now you could leave it at that but I am going to double emboss, and I will emboss the waves and bubbles. And to say, because of how well Lisa's embossing folders are made, that will still keep the very faint detail of the leaves in the background. It just adds another different layer of interest. And say, you don't have to do that at all. But if you do that and you decide you don't like it, then you can do it again and leave that off. And I think some designs would work better than others, but I say it just gives that extra layer of detail, I think, doesn't it? So I'm just going to emboss that now. And I've just run it through the embossing machine only once. It only needs to go through the once. I can take that away now. If we take that out, almost gives bumblebee feeling, doesn't it, to that? But I think it's just a really nice background, interesting background. And as I take that away, actually I'll show you the reverse so you can see that the detail of the waves and bubbles has come through. Here we go. I'll just look at your comments there. We've got Cynthia from Hawaii. Wow, hello there. Lovely to have you. So I can show you that now. A couple of things to try and show you here. Obviously you can see the mica coming through, and I've frozen again. Hopefully you'll come back to me in a second. I'm assuming you can still hear me actually. But also, actually, that is quite interesting. As the screen is frozen, I'm hoping that you can see that. You can see the mica coming out, particularly in the blue, sort of summer green, summer garden green areas. You can see the embossing of the waves and bubbles, but because that's quite a nice shot held still for you, you can see the really faint detail of the leaves that is still there. Look at this section here. It just adds that extra level of detail, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is the waves and bubbles set at all. Now, I didn't create a sentiment for this one, but again, you can just create a large sentiment in appropriate colours and put that on the front. So maybe I'll use the gold one. That one looks a little bit better, doesn't it? There, just like that. And you can see how well that fits on craft card for the autumnal theme. It'll be a great card for the guys, say, depending on the colours that you use also. Now it looks like I'm freezing in and out. So fortunately, I managed to fit all of those demos in, so come back to me in a second. So I'll just line up all these different styles for you, and hopefully I've just given you a good few ideas. If you do have this set, I've just given you a few new ideas on how you can use this set in lots of different ways and make it work for you. As say, the idea is that Lisa sets do try and make them completely versatile. So we've got 3 very different looks here that don't scream waves and bubbles to you, really, do you? So obviously you can do any of these with the blues and greens or water themed, but it's nice to show you them all in a very different sort of colour palette. So apologies if that keeps dipping in and out too much. It looks like you've been able to hear me all the way through, which is something at least. Yeah, the screen frozen, but you can still hear me. That's good. Quite a few of you are enjoying the red theme, and Evelyn's daughter. Evelyn's daughter had the right idea about the black card and took that away for herself. Well, you have to get in there a bit quicker next time, Evelyn. Okay, so I'll leave that with you there for today. I've actually really enjoyed making those, and hopefully it's given you a bit of an incentive to give these this design a try as well. I'll be back with you. I don't think I'll be back next Tuesday because Lisa has another shopping event next Tuesday evening where she's launching a brand new collection with Spellbinders. So it's the new holiday collection with Spellbinders. So there is a post on the Facebook group where you can put a comment underneath, I think live, and then you'll get a reminder directly into your messenger of when the event is starting. So that will definitely be worth looking up and doing as well. Lisa will be with you for tomorrow, Friday Night Live, where I think she's going to perhaps introduce the Spellbinders to you as well and give you all the details for the shopping event next Tuesday. So I shall see you all there tomorrow evening. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and I shall be with you back next week. Take care.